What is up, YouTube? My name is Trinity, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before, and happy Spooktober. For our second video celebrating Spooktober and looking into the different investigations of Ed and Lorraine Warren, we are going to be talking about the first case that really put them on the map as paranormal investigators. We are going to be talking about Annabelle. Now, to preface, I know that the Lore Lodge, another channel that I'm a huge fan of, just released their own video about Annabelle, and there are some differences from the information that they present versus what I'm going to tell you today. I believe they had different sources, and then also information on certain things such as names and order of events changes depending on the source. So if you just watch that and mine is a little different, that is why. Rather than the unholy visual monstrosity of the Annabelle movies, the real Annabelle doll is a plush Raggedy Ann doll. I understand why they changed it up for the movies for increased scare factor, but it's kind of crazy seeing the difference when you see what Annabelle actually looks like. The doll was gifted to a 28-year-old nursing student named Donna or Deirdre, depending on the source, and it was given to her by her mother, who bought it at a secondhand craft store in 1970. Now, Donna loved the doll immediately, but very early on, her and her roommate Angie discovered that something is not normal about this doll. First, they started noticing little things like when they would leave her sitting in one position, when they came back, she'd be sitting slightly differently. So if they sat her down with her legs crossed, when they came back, they would be uncrossed or vice versa. Or her arm would be moved, or maybe she'd be slouched when she was sitting upright. But that quickly escalated from smaller movements to just appearing in different rooms where she was not left. Now, it would make sense as Donna's possession that it would stay in her room most of the time, maybe on her bed, but then it would somehow appear on the couch in the living room or in the kitchen, or if it was on Donna's bed, it would end up in a chair in her room. Initially, both of the girls just thought that they had either moved it and forgot about it, or that the other girl in the apartment had moved it without telling them. Now, that was not the only indication that there was something wrong with the Raggedy Ann doll. A friend of the girls named Lou or Cal, again, depends on what source you're using, and maybe Angie's fiance, immediately did not feel right about the doll. He was actually the first to suggest that it was maybe possessed or something, because it just gave him the creeps. Now, even though it would end up, at least in the story, that he was right on the money, the girls didn't want to think that this random doll was possessed. That was a very large leap in logic. Soon, though, they had to kind of face the music that there was something unnatural about this doll, because then notes began appearing around their apartment on a type of parchment paper that neither of them owned, in a child's handwriting, saying very strange but vague messages like "help us" or "help Lou." I will say this right now. If a friend of mine had a creepy ass doll that was already giving me bad vibes and they were saying weird stuff was happening with it, but they were like kind of in denial, and then notes started appearing with my name on it, I'm sorry, I'm not going back to your apartment. And if these notes weren't weird and concerning enough, one day Donna came home to find Annabelle on her bed, shockingly where she left her that day. But then she looked at the doll's hands, and there was a red substance that looked a lot like blood on them. This is the straw that broke the camel's back and finally pushed the girls to contact someone who could get to the bottom of what was happening with Annabelle. Though rather than going to like a priest or something, they sought out a medium. They met with this medium with the Raggedy Ann doll present, and the medium told them that before their apartment complex had been built on the property it sat on, that it was an open field, and a little 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins was found dead there. And her spirit had never moved on, and she was very lonely until the girls moved in and Donna received the Annabelle doll, which the spirit took a liking to. And then the spirit possessed the Raggedy Ann doll. Now, I will say that in this situation, Donna and Angie are much better people than I am, because they felt really bad for this little girl's spirit. They said they were nurses and they take care of people for a living, and therefore they wanted to be able to comfort and take care of Annabelle. So they allowed her to move into the doll and acknowledged her presence. As sweet as this all sounds, Lou still did not fuck with Annabelle. And I think Lou is a real one for that. When he would stay at the girls' apartments, he would have visions and nightmares of Annabelle. One night, he was sleeping or maybe just napping on the couch, and he woke up and he was completely paralyzed. But he saw at his feet the Annabelle doll. And then she began slowly crawling up his body to sit on his chest, and then felt her little doll hands wrap around his throat and choke him until he passed out. And then the following night, something even more terrifying happened. Lou and Angie were at home. Donna was out for the night, but then they heard this commotion come from her room. They considered calling the police. They thought that maybe someone was breaking in. They went in there. Lou turned on the light, and there was no one in there. At least, no person. Annabelle was there sitting on Donna's bed, and Lou went up to her. And all of a sudden, he felt a sensation like you get when someone is behind you, and he felt complete dread and terror. And then he felt a searing pain across his chest as several deep scratch marks appeared on him. Now, this attack is what triggered Angie to contact the Warrens, because obviously there was something very wrong. Annabelle's behavior had escalated at this point from just unsettling little things to actually being a physically threatening presence. The Warrens visited the girls in their apartment, and they determined that it was not a ghost that was possessing Annabelle. In fact, Ed told them that items are not possessed, people are possessed. And that it was in fact a demon masquerading as the 7-year-old spirit of Annabelle Higgins in order to kind of worm their way into Donna and Angie's hearts to get permission to stay, and that it was preparing to take Donna's soul. A priest also came to the apartment while the Warrens were there and did a cleansing blessing, and the Warrens chose to take Annabelle with them. They decided to take back roads back to their apartment because they feared that the entity that was using the doll would cause some sort of accident if they were to go on the highway. And this apparently was not a very out there thought because they experienced continual car issues. Their brakes and their power steering failed on the drive home, as well as their engine continually stalling. As well as their engine repeatedly stalling. They attributed these issues to the doll, and they apparently subsided long enough to get home once Ed sprinkled some holy water on it. Once in the Warrens' home, Annabelle did not decide to behave. Ed tossed the doll on his desk, figuring that he would deal with it later, but now that it was in their house, it wouldn't have as much power, though they repeatedly walked in on the doll levitating. This stopped for a while, making the couple think that the demon was going dormant, that it had kind of given up on its plans, but then it started disappearing and reappearing around the house as it had done at Donna and Angie's apartment. Ed and Lorraine called in a priest who apparently did not take the severity of this situation very seriously because he picked up Annabelle. And he said something like, "You can't hurt anyone, Annabelle, you're just a doll." And I am asking, did they not tell him about the shit that they had already seen and heard about this doll? He tossed her into a chair, and Annabelle apparently took that extremely personally. Because on his drive home from the Warrens' house, he was in a severe car crash that flipped over his car and left him injured, but he did survive. Now, Annabelle would go on to be probably the most famous artifact in the Warrens Occult Museum, being locked in a box that says, "Positively do not open." And along with the other haunted artifacts that are there, a priest would come every couple of months to bless everything in order to keep the entities in these objects bound to the museum. Now, I'm not sure if this ritual is still being maintained, as the current guardians of the museum do not seem very competent, in my opinion. Though I will say this is not where Annabelle's reign of terror ends. In early May of this year, NESPER, the organization that Ed and Lorraine founded to study the paranormal, announced that they were going on a tour called Devils on the Run, and that they would be bringing along several of the famous artifacts from the different Warren investigations to show off and educate the public. Now, if the people that were putting on this show from the organization, if they truly believe that all of these items are very dangerous and cursed, like Ed and Lorraine seemed to, I don't know why they would do this, but it also makes me question how much they actually bought into it. I've heard it said that Tony Spera, the son-in-law of Ed and Lorraine, took none of this seriously, and he was more just capitalizing off of their legacy. But again, I'm not sure if that's true. That's just something I've heard said. After the tour left New Orleans, the Nottoway Plantation, the largest remaining plantation in the South, its mansion caught on fire and burned it completely to the ground. Now, the mansion on this plantation was built in 1859 using slave labor, and about 150 slaves had been held captive there. It was also considered to be one of the most haunted locations in the state of Louisiana. So a lot of paranormal enthusiasts drew a line between the destruction of the plantation mansion and Annabelle's presence in the town. Now, I don't know if I'd go there, but also I'm not gonna cry over a fucking plantation burning down. Like, if the paranormal is real, I hope that it burning down put the souls of the people that were enslaved there to rest. Around the same time, another fire occurred in New Orleans, this time at the house of a famous voodoo practitioner from the 1800s named Marie Laveau, and this fire was also deemed an accident. Again, I'm not going to say that it's definitely connected or not. I feel like people are just kind of trying to connect the dots because of the hype around Annabelle. Now, during their stop in San Antonio, Texas, several attendees claimed to see a face reflected in the glass of Annabelle's case. Now, I believe that this is probably just a lighting or photography issue, because it is a common issue when you're taking pictures of glass or other reflective surfaces. It was compared to a photo of Matt Rife that was posted before that also seemed to have a face in the mirror as he was standing next to Annabelle. Again, I don't think there's anything paranormal with that. However, I'm all for gaslighting Matt Rife into thinking he's being haunted. Like, just have people very convincingly Photoshop little things into the back of his pictures and stuff. That would be so funny. When the tour visited Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, there was a 911 outage on the same day that the tour stopped there. The only thing that I will say is kind of weird that if I do believe in the paranormal, which I'm not that sure of, is on the last day of their tour, the senior lead of Nesper and one of the tour hosts, Dan Rivera, passed away very suddenly of what they determined was natural causes. He was only 54 at the time, but that doesn't really mean it couldn't have been. But people have pointed out a video of where he is opening the box containing Annabelle that says positively do not open, while wearing gloves that were blessed by a priest, apparently, and moved her from one box to a smaller box for transportation. And people kind of pointed out, like, you broke the number one rule of Annabelle. And they said maybe that's why he passed. I wouldn't say that, just because I feel like it's insensitive to his loved ones. But I'm not going to say, like, out of everything that I've listed, I feel like if there was something that was Annabelle, I feel like it would be that. And then there is the story of Marissa Martinez, who went to a dinner with Annabelle where she was able to take a picture with the real Annabelle doll, and they were told beforehand, do not make fun of her, do not insult her. And in her mind, just as kind of an intrusive thought, she did insult Annabelle, and her life kind of fell apart after that. A bunch of things happened, like her apartment being infested with roaches, an illness that doctors couldn't identify, waking up with her dog's shit on her face, and a whole bunch of other stuff that she attributed to Annabelle and her insulting Annabelle in her mind. And she said that things only got better once she kind of purged her life of everything that had to do with that night, including like throwing out her purse, deleting the pictures from that night, and throwing out the outfit and everything. That's only when things started getting better. Now, again, do I think that Annabelle is definitely inhabited by a demon and a whole bunch of bad stuff happened to this girl because she thought of an insult. I don't think so, but I'm not going to knock it, because if I ever decided to go see the Annabelle doll, even if I don't think I believe in the paranormal, or at least don't believe in that kind of paranormal stuff, I would be scared as shit to think the wrong thing, because I don't want it proven to me in that way that the paranormal's real. I don't want to have to be taught that lesson the hard way. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Annabelle is truly inhabited by a demon? Do you think that the original story of Annabelle with Donna and Angie and Lou, or the other names given, do you think that's a true story? Do you think some of it's embellished? I know that Ed Warren later changed some details in interviews, which could indicate that he's either lying or just misremembering stuff. Do you think that the girl that experienced all of that weird stuff when she insulted Annabelle, do you think she's telling the truth? Do you think that all of that stuff would have happened otherwise and she just kind of connected it to Annabelle because she was told not to do it beforehand and everything happened after? Please let me know down in the comments below. I'm gonna try this new thing where in every video, at least videos that get comments, I'm going to pick out my favorite comment and maybe read it in the next video that I upload. But that all depends on, if people actually want to comment. But thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate and love you guys so much. And I appreciate all the support, especially for this new Spooktober celebration that we're doing. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell to be notified anytime that I upload. You'll especially want that for this month, as we're doing this Spooktober celebration of all of the Warrens investigations. I love and appreciate you guys so much, and all of your love and support. And you guys are the ones that motivate me to keep uploading videos as often as I can. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.